Hey. You. Hi there. It's 4:19. Do you have a minute? Good. Then let's pack a bowl
and talk about Election Madness 2020.
'Cause it's time for Cannabis Talk.
Election Madness Edition.
A special 420 themed segment of the Almost Daily Zencast. Hosted by spiritual cannabis mystic, the incorrigible Mr. Zappa.
That's me.
Let's get lit, folks.
But don't burn the rice. Hello and namaste, friends. Forgive me 1 second while I clear this out. Election Madness.
Yeah.
Woo! Wow. Hello and namaste. Welcome. Go save some lives. You may or may not have been able to hear, but to my ears, very loudly, a fire truck and with sirens just went by. Hello, friends. It's 4:21 or 4:22, depending on when you asked. And I just literally jumped on the air at the last possible second, and you're going to laugh at this, and almost burnt the rice. Making rice, side dish for dinner. Just doing a little custom recipe. Make my big old frying pan full of rice. I like dirty rice, of various recipe types. But I digress. Had it on because I thought I was going to take a solid 2-hour break from doing the show. And then when I realized what time it was and that I could jump on just in time to do almost literally in real time a 420. Excuse me, I have hiccups. And the burpees. So, just a second. Okay, I think that's better. Okay. Almost burnt the rice. Because I got into prepping the show and the label and, slapping a picture together. Forgot that I had gone downstairs thinking I was going to take a 2-hour tour of a dinner break. I don't know why I did a weird sung reference to Gilligan's Island just then, but I did. And here we are staring at the same old numbers we've been staring at all day. With this political election counting madness. And I thought, well, it's almost 4:20, and I have just enough time to pack a bowl, prep to flip on the show, and get on the show and actually smoke with the opening of the show and be like, yeah, it's 4:20, here we are. In that way that we do, 4:20 style, be talking to you. And I don't know why I felt the need to do it, despite the fact that I just said I was going to take a 2-hour break. I guess this is the bonus surprise 4th episode. I probably won't last long. I may not even be able to come back later this evening because my voice has been a bit touchy, and I've been writing it a bit hard and talking a bit too much. And people will make their snicker-snackery jokes, their kinder care fucking level playground jokes. I can hear it. Yes, that's you, Doug. I like Doug because, how many people named Doug have you ever met in your life? 2. And I'm not making fun of them because I don't know them anymore. Anyways, please forgive me, anybody named Doug. It is cannabis o'clock, and I'm going to smoke some weed and then eat some rice and then watch the television and pray and hope and manifest. If those things are real, maybe that helps. If they're not real, then at least I entertain myself. And what is it to you? That the living, walking person that already has a puppeteering a ventriloquist dummy made of him. We can now just hold on. I have a point of order. Point of order. I think that moving forward throughout time, even if, well, it's kind of a moot point if Biden does not win, but if Biden wins, we shall all just pretend and agree that one stand-up comics that's a ventriloquist with a puppet that's an angry old guy, that was always Biden. And we can just retroactively retrofit all of his jokes and make them, somehow be about Joe Biden. I don't know. Because I'm jealous of that meme. Because the similarity is uncanny. I have, at times, and I'll be honest with you, friends, I don't necessarily hold the following opinion as my own as to be true as I used to. But the notion that all politicians lie, I mean, even some of the well-adjusted pro-system, people you could call statists, who are into their party and who love the actors on the stage, will tell you, yeah, of course, they lie. They misconstrue the truth. So why are we worried about, and then you get into some whataboutist side shuffle of logical hair pulling until you run away screaming because you hate them more or you agree. And that's just in my opinion, an incredibly inefficient way to conduct civic organization and build consensus towards solving problems, because I think that's what's intended when we say democratic republic of self-governance by the people, of the people, for the people. And if we're going to live up to that, if we're going to make, and I say we even though I'm not allowed to vote, because fuck all, I'm still here, and I still get to have free speech and discuss the ideas with y'all. And and for as fake as politics is, the political decisions made by all those that do have the power will impact my life. And at that point, do we not owe each other some room to take into consideration the countervailing opinions of those, even if they cannot vote? And who knows, maybe someday talking toaster ovens will have the right to vote. Who knows? I doubt it, though. I do have the right to opine and discuss it. And I have the right to smoke cannabis in my own house and enjoy it the way anybody else could just crack open a Merlot and drink a glass or 17 of it and no one would bat an eye. not that I'm going to drink 17 glasses of Merlot. I don't have any wine at the moment, I don't think. And I don't smoke that much weed. I know people who, I guess, theoretically could, but that's not the point. The point is, I wish that we were at 2020 on this other timeline where instead of fighting and arguing about will it be a blue wave, will it be a red wave, is their wave bigger than my wave, whose wave was a tidal wave and whose wave was just a little bit of a nudge of bigger than it was already going to be baseline. I wish 2020, and I know it can't be, but I can write retro, historical, futurism, nostalgia poetry about the 2020 that could have been, the 2020 that should have been, the 2020 that cannabis have been, that cannabis still be, if we vote for it in 2023. And by this I mean, like, wouldn't it have been amazing if we and our forefathers, intellectually speaking, not necessarily our biological forefathers, but our forefathers in the fight to decriminalize and decategorize and liberate the humble, delightful, edible, healing plant we call all kinds of names, but that I prefer to call cannabis, pot, weed, reefer. Not going to jump into, although I wish I could. I wish my show was like professional enough. I wish I was a real boy, and that in that real boy life, I had the rights and the ability to quickly just like impromptu play I Smoke Two Joints by everybody who's ever played it in rotation for whenever I felt like that's the reference. Boom. But especially, who was it? Cake? No, I'm being a jerk. I can't remember their names. The one band with the quote from the movie, from the fake documentary, Reefer Madness. Not the play. There's a musical, Reefer Madness, and that's a parody. People may or may not understand this. That's an actual parody written, inspired by, based upon, stealing the content of the original actual propaganda scare fright movie that was legitimate about how bad reefer was for you. And it's not. It's a healing plant. And it would be beautiful. It would be glorious. It would be amazing. It would be a wonderful sci-fi future, retrofuturism, refitting activism of a 2020 that could have been, where instead of fighting coronavirus, we're healing hitherto undiscovered healing properties of cannabis in people by using it in new and exciting ways, like, as food and as beverage, not to get high, but to be nourished, because it can do both, depending on which way you approach it, which way you ingest it, and which way you treat it and whatnot. And that politically, cannabis were sweeping the nation in terms of being decriminalized, being legalized, being returned to its proper place, right there next to the humble tomato plant, as something that, is the number one most popular plant Americans grow at home for themselves and each other. Why? Because I think you can indeed cultivate it, enjoy it, consume it, and live in a safe relationship with it that's safer and healthier than alcohol. And this is coming from a guy that used to love beer. Was a general beer and wine guy, because I was never too much. I love the idea of cocktails and cocktail hours and going out for a cocktail, but I never actually ordered cocktails because it was like, blah. Give me an interesting beer or a nice, palatable, refreshing, thirst-quenching wine. And wine goes back, wine's biblical. But I digress. That's my point. I still believe despite my history of having a consumer relationship with that product, which you may judge or you might not judge, but whatever. I certainly had my relationship to it, and I'm glad that relationship has changed dramatically. Amen. Hallelujah. Not that I'm a big Bible thumper, but I do sometimes like to talk like them because I do have a thing with Jesus, but that's a sidebar. I'd rather live in a world, honestly, I would rather, if I could vote in this country, I would vote to live in a world. Oh, and I still speak of it in terms of voting because the universe is a manifesting voting box. There's an idea, huh? There's a little maybe wide open secret of the silly things that are secret but also wide open in your face. And I would rather vote for living in a world where growing your own cannabis and turning it into food items like, super green food smoothies that don't get you high, and maybe also edibles that do get you high, and also smoking it responsibly, ritualistically, in association with meditation and other sort of personal self-care rituals. It's brilliant to smoke a little bit of weed and then go for a delightful walk. And you can very easily turn that into jogging. And people are like, but smoking and running, your lungs. I'm like, no. Cannabis is very gentle on the lungs compared to cigarette smoke. And I know I have scientifically tested it on myself for the purposes of knowing phenomenologically. And also, I used to be a cigarette smoker. Used to be. I say that because I'm trying to manifest, the complete reality of me not having smoked for 20 years, which will take me exactly 20 more years from right this second to achieve. But I live the sort of casual, ethical, hedonist lifestyle of I kind of love them and I kind of enjoy them and I kind of don't really want to give them up because my freedoms, right? If they can my freedoms their way into not wearing a mask and helping over 200,000 plus, and what fear-mongering speculative statements indicate could be upwards of 500,000, if not way more, dead people because of your freedoms to not do a thing, then I can do a thing that they would probably disagree with. But I digress. We are not in the middle of a green wave of political and social and cultural acceptance of cannabis and hemp. And that makes me a little bit sad, but also I'm not, it also reminds me that I'm very much a pragmatist and a realist, and I'm a practitioner of gratitude, and I'm reminded that while it's not necessarily a giant, obvious green wave, there is indeed the early undulations of what is, the oscillating rhythmic building towards a tsunami of that very phenomena happening because we are blessed in this country that is slowly fighting the identity crisis of, do I be a tyrannical Trump-topian empire, or do I try to continue to pull off the industrial military complex as savior of the world, Jesus, America with guns, Republican democracy republic scam for a little bit, for another 80 years before becoming some sort of namesake tyranny. It has, in the interim of all that time, begun to let go of its irrational fear and hatred for the humble green healing plant to which it as a country has clung to for a lifetime and a half. And more people are enjoying cannabis recreationally in a responsible fashion. And if you're not, shame on you. Learn your lessons, get your shit together, take a few weeks off, maybe go a full 90 days because that's the bare minimum of proving it's not addictive. And if you can't do that, then you have some sort of personal addiction mentality problem that you need to address because you probably are drinking also, etc., and smoking too much cigarettes and doing too many other crazy things. And if we should live in a world where not only it is okay to do the crazy things that the system used to oppress us about, but it's okay to ask for help if you can't handle your own freedoms. Right? Freedom shouldn't be about who's manly enough to chop off their own hand out in the wild to survive. Freedom should be, like, although if that's what you want, do it, I guess. Where am I going? I don't know. I'm just jibber-jabbering and talking your ear off, stranger. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to give you a quick mental break with a wee bit of music. Hopefully it's not too redundant. I don't think I've played this for you before. It's called Perfection, like as if there were a cat involved in the meme, from yours and mine favorite imaginary DJ spinner of electronic loopy things, and his album End Times, a Vaporwave 1-3 remix track of delightfulness. Don't take my word for it. Do your research, friends. There's a lot of interesting breakthroughs that have been happening in the cannabis world. Besides the obvious, besides the obvious hyper commercialization of the flower into increasingly silly niche product, which is great. I don't mind it. I kind of love it. It's great. It's neat to be able to see, like, oh wow, where does all that ingenuity come from? But I'm also, I guess, glad, excited, and want to take a moment in the context of my own show to call out and honor and say, hey, let's not undervalue this. That there's a burgeoning, emergent home grow culture. And that there has been for a while, but bless it, now that it's been a little bit of time, and Trump didn't effing destroy it. Like, I'm amazed. Can I tell you that for the last 4 years, I have lived in a space where one of my rational / maybe irrational, but maybe it isn't, kind of rational, irrational fears was that Trump would slam the hammer down hard. And I'm not trying to give him any ideas, 10 minutes before he gets swept out the door. And I don't think he's got the political savvy to rally and pull the right levers of power in the right way quick enough. So if I knock on wood and don't accidentally invoke this from happening, but rather assure that by speaking it out loud, it doesn't happen, because I'm saying right now, I'm calling it. It's the last thing on his mind. Unless he's obsessively, compulsively listening to my show, in which case he might steal it from me, but who knows. But I'm glad as of right now, and I will put up a fight if he tries to pull it out in the lame duck, because that alone is reason enough to be like, fuck off with that maneuver. No one thinks it's reasonable, and you shouldn't be bothering. You should be doing good things that help fundamental core issues, like, saving the kids that your base are constantly going on about. Not punishing the hippie stoner guys who just want to like meditate and relax and, I don't know, help the species heal. But could you imagine? Question mark, question mark, question mark, exclamation points, emojis of fear and shock. If I lived in fear. This was my irrational fear that I never actually said out loud because I was a little nervous about it. But I lived in the rational / irrational fear for the entire duration of this Trumptopian nightmare that he would like bring the hammer down hard, and that for reasons further harder to imagine being plausible or realistic, that my house would get raided for being a cannabis enthusiast who wants to be a thought leader in the cannabis enthusiasm culture network, for talking about cannabis and encouraging people, to explore cannabis, especially in a contemplative, mindful context, of thinking of it as like a spiritual medicine, that's kind of fun and healthier for you than drinking your blues away with a lot of alcohol. Not that isn't also kind of fun, because I've been there, right? But I've been there, done that. Trust me. Maybe not for as many things as everybody out there, but for enough things to know how the world works. And I digress. I really would love to see that like green renaissance come to its most powerful, like, tsunami green tidal wave of love and healing and gentleness in affecting meaningful change. Not just convenient change, friends, right? Because therein lies the ego trap. But meaningful change that brings about further healing, that inspires further change. And through the normalization of the recreational and also the thoughtful, mindful, responsible spiritual use, which may be different, may look different, may be presented in a different way, may be approached differently, but may look exactly the same. Who knows? For the purposes of, spiritual benefit, spiritual, and I hate to use the word gain, because then we get into this whole, that's the ego trap of spirituality, you're not supposed to gain anything. But you know what I'm saying. For the benefit of all other beings. For, the greater good, the greatest benefit for the greatest good. Because I believe it is meant for that kind of use precisely. And I encourage you guys to just contemplate that notion. And take a look at all the other crazy things that they're fighting about in the political spectrum as we pause with this. It's not part three of my triptych of election night reporting. And I literally, after this, I really will wait until whenever it is that they announce the official projected winner. Because then we'll have to wait a few days and, visit the actual certification and see where the lawsuits go and find out. And here, friends, if you're still paying attention and you're not just letting my ramblings wash over you in a sort of delirious state, the most dangerous moment in time between now and January 21st is the Electoral College, Safe Dock Harbor Day or whatever they call it, and final meeting day, and when they actually cast their votes. Because that's not done. And that's the fat lady. Remember I started my day today with you today? How did I do it? The opera's not over till the fat lady sings. And forgive me, that's just a saying. I don't mean the fat lady. The opera's not over until the primary female lead sings her most powerful aria, if we're going to rewrite the saying. I think it's wordy. But you know what I'm saying. In politics, it ain't over till the 21st. I mean, the 20th is swearing in. And then the 21st, there wasn't any, armed uprising where they would try to storm the White House and string this guy up for being there. Everyone's just going to go about their business. Sort of day of relief day. I'm going to save the bit about changing, reforming electoral politics a little bit for when I come back. Because I don't know when they're going to announce. And I don't know how exciting or anticlimactic that whole announcement episode will be. Because who knows what'll happen. And I might want to watch and let it sit and make sure there isn't any kind of, reaction to the announcements and stuff. But they might be announcing right this hot minute at 4:50 p.m. Thursday, November 5th, Pacific Standard Time. But I don't know. I doubt it. And if they are, we're missing out. But if they aren't, we can return to some, interesting, introspective discussion of various things. But election reform and some of my interesting propositions for, I really think y'all should give them a good nibble. Just give them a good chew and thinking on. Because you might like them. And some of them might be a little bit too extreme. But luckily, they're all sort of modular suggestions. And I'm willing to negotiate a couple of details away a little bit there. But I think you'll appreciate this thing that I've been thinking about. In terms of if Trumptopia really truly did go blue in a big blue rigid flow of blue fire hydrant water hitting you in the face and really cleaning your teeth out and all the cracks in between. That was a powerful analogy, right? And the next, my really optimistic idea of a 3-term blue presidency. Not that Kamala Harris, and forgive me, I would get fired in one version of reality for failing to have that name perfectly at the tip of my tongue. But the Biden-Harris ticket I wasn't saying or trying to suggest should go 3 terms. Don't misquote me on that. I don't think they should. But I think it would be interesting and a fun sort of record moment in history if Biden-Harris, 2 terms, and then the next president is another team blue Democratic ticket, or maybe a mixed ticket, like a Democrat plus a third party person to sort of win in those third parties, so that the nation gets more than just the 8 years respite of all the crazy cacophony that is the GOP brand. And it must be said, there's a lot of backlash to the idea that both parties are corrupt. Because they'll say, don't tell me both parties are the same. I'm like, I don't mean the same like they're exactly the same. I mean, they're both corrupt and are doing corrupt things. They're just doing it really differently and getting away with different kinds of things that, some things are way less the kind of things you look for in terms of corruption and what people are getting away with. But everyone does things that in an ideal world we wouldn't need to fucking tolerate. Never mind the fact that even on its best day and in its most heroic efforts from all of its individual members, the body politic is something that is inherently toxic, as is the food industry or the tobacco industry or big oil or all these things, all the systems we've built, including any of us getting to any of their open, job positions as our day job. Just getting there. Nightmare of toxicity and bad for us and the planet and our karma. But that's a whole nother episode of a whole nother nature. Today, I wanted to ramble at you for a hot minute and also mark a 420 moment. I invite you all to unite and maybe sort of manifest, pray, invoke, whatever your favorite word that fits there ought to be. There it goes. Use that one. But join me in doing it that this all ends rationally and peacefully, and that, as I put in my original cover for the first attempt at making this episode happen, that I failed because I think I deleted it. But may calm minds and peaceful hearts prevail. Because as you know, if you've been listening along for the last handful of episodes or not, or as you will soon find out as you listen to some of the more recent episodes that I have posted, the system wants the violence on the streets of this and whatever country you apply the theory to, as I've shared it to you over the last however many years I've been doing this show. And what we ought to do is band together in grounding and healing and uniting in the committed forward movement of disarming and transforming ourselves and our toxic society so that we're positioned to thrive instead of destroy each other in tribalism and, tribalistic pseudo-warfare of the political, ideological, manipulation-induced kind. Don't you think? Not too horrible of an idea, right, folks? Not too bad for a hippie, new age, stoner, wackadoodle, woo-woo nut job. Question mark, don't you think? Wink. I'm smiling and looking cute. I'm feeling cute, and I might save the world through, realistic spiritualism later. I don't know. I'm going to leave you with a piece of music so that I've already played that one, haven't I? I've already played Perfection. Yes, I have. I can delete it from this menu and not worry about it. I'm going to leave you with Sith Funk 101 Remix Master Maneuvers Render Magic. DJ Zed, End Times. Going to wrap up this delightfully concise cannabis edition of What the Fuck is Going On with Politics. I don't think the numbers have moved. I'm going to go check, but I'm also going to go rest my voice and eat that rice I did not burn just now. And I hope you have enjoyed the discursive, introspective spectacle of my own, self-talk, and that you've contemplated the questions embedded therein and have thoughts that you've thinky thought all on your own, friends, because that's truly what it's about. Namaste. Peace, love, and grooviness. Responsibly enjoy cannabis. If you are of the legal age or older, depending on your state, please check your local ordinances. And remember, folks, cannabis is meant for meditation, you silly humans. And other things. Word jazz. No, I don't know. That work? That doesn't work. I should shut up. I don't know about you, but I was giggling and remembering that I meant to say this on that current episode. Trump accusing state election officials of corruption is the most adorable living meme of the pot calling the kettle black, or in this case, sun booth, tanning booth, orange. Let's agree to disagree that the world is somehow naturally organized and divided between political parties. I mean, that idea alone sounds like pure malarkey to me. But let's set that aside. We live in a country whose political parties have been fighting each other for, in my direct witness of being able to observe them consciously, like 35 years. I like to jokingly express that I've been watching for 44 years, but it's not like I was paying attention in the figurative womb, figuratively, however you, yeah. Although I guess in the literature I would write it that way. Anyways, that's a sidebar. So for 35 years, ostensibly the last 50 years, if not more, if not 60. I mean, you got history. You got presidential historians and books about it. You can investigate and make decisions on your own for yourself. The problem is most people don't, actually. Most people find the thing that they think they ought to agree with next based on the last thing they agreed with, which is based on a long chain of agreeing to some basic premises, one of which is it's left versus right, red versus blue around here. And that's a ridiculous paradigm that is neither real nor organic to natural reality. Why would you force yourself to adhere to it willy-nilly like that? I know Jesus, if Jesus himself could come down from wherever, or emerge out from whatever inner realm thing and be like, what would Jesus do? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I'm kind of here to answer those. He would not say, yes, I would divide you and pit you against one another according to made-up political ideology that neither feeds the hungry, houses the homeless, heals the sick, or does any of the other cool things I taught you how to do directly or indirectly, but is rather one big long meat grinder distraction from all those things that I and the other enlightened beings have taught you about. That ain't none of my business. I'm just saying that's the question I've got for you, friends, and that's why we join together on these delightful shows within shows within shows to talk about. And that is the end of that. Thanks for listening. Tune in for the official part 3 of Election Day 3, my 3-part coverage of political shenanigans, which will drop when they actually finally formally, in a sort of it's final and it will survive the following few days of adjudication projection of Biden winning. Because I'm fairly certain that's what we're going to get. If for some reason we get Trump, God bless it, it will be a very weird 4 years. But I'll still be here right there with you, friends, speaking truth to power and reminding you all that the normal we had before Trump ran for office was not normal. And, we got better to do. We got to do better, and we got to do both those, plus actually heal ourselves and each other and open our third eyes and transform these weak flesh and bone envelopes into beings of pure light.
And that is the latest breaking news. We now return you to your regularly scheduled brainwashing. Thank you for listening.
Live addendum to the show. Haven't stopped just yet. It's 5:09 p.m. Thursday, November 5th, Pacific Standard Time. And according to the crawly thing on the bottom of the Fox News, Trump is once again declaring victory, non-ironically and not figuratively, I think in his mind, literally. And I haven't even addressed that dynamic. I've just called it shenanigans. There will be shenanigans of all kinds today, tomorrow, the next day, all the way up till the Electoral College. Whatever bluster and accusations and blither-blathering that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth, the only thing I'm worried about is unfaithful Electorate College members voting for Trump because they believe they know in the best interest of their own state that it would be better for them to do that on a state that has gone for Biden. Because technically, that's not against the Constitution or any of the laws, which is cuckoo nut jobs insane in my mind, as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to take the Electoral College seriously. Or if you're going to recognize the Electoral College as the built-in mechanisms of lever of power that's too easy to abuse if you realize it's a temporary kingship and you can sort of seduce everyone into letting you stay a really long time. But I'll stop rambling. Rest your ears, folks, and brace yourselves. It'll get weirder, but by January 22nd, we'll know for sure one way or the other. Not pretending to predict or call it. I just hope and pray that it is Joe Biden and not Donald Trump. Not because I love Joe Biden so much or blah, 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 blah. Don't accuse me. Don't project onto me. You don't have to be a Democrat and a Joe Biden blind faith supporter to want Joe Biden to win in order to make sure Trump loses. And we'll discuss that in its glorious irony and in-depth strategery, especially from my own angle as to why, in both future episodes and past episodes that are already up on the Sprecher.com platform. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, remember how to be good humans, and may peace, love, and grooviness blossom in your heart.